Sharon sat at her desk, her fingers shaking slightly as she opened her laptop. The office was quiet except for the soft hum of the air conditioning and the steady clicks of Toby's keyboard behind her. He hadn't spoken since she arrived that morning. Not a single word. He just nodded, pointed to her desk, and got to work. Every second felt like a test. She wondered if he was watching her, waiting for her to mess up. She couldn't afford to. Not with her sister still on medication. Not with her mother asking every night, "Did they pay you yet?" So she sat straight, answered every call with perfect manners, and triple-checked every email. But the silence between them was louder than any shout. She remembered him vaguely, just another face in high school, quiet, awkward, invisible. His name was Toby, the boy with second-hand shoes, books taped at the spine, and glasses too big for his face. He sat at the back, always alone, always scribbling. Nobody talked to him unless they needed answers during tests and exams. But she had been a queen. Sharon, the girl every boy wanted, the one who walked with confidence like the future already belonged to her. She didn't just ignore Toby. She humiliated him. At lunchtime, she packed up her small sandwich and stood to leave. Toby looked up briefly. "You can use the break room," he said without emotion. It was the first thing he had said all day. She nodded, startled, and walked away quickly. In the break room, she sat by herself. 2 other staff members came in, laughing. They glanced at her but didn't say much. She heard them whisper, "That's her, the boss's new assistant." Sharon looked down at her food. She wasn't sure if they pitied her or envied her. Maybe both. When she returned to the office, Toby was on a call. He didn't look at her. But on her desk, she saw a note in his handwriting, "Tell my 3 p.m. to move it to tomorrow." She smiled faintly. It wasn't kindness, but it was trust. A tiny crack in the ice. Days turned into weeks. Sharon got better at her job. She learned how Toby liked his schedule arranged, no back-to-back meetings, morning slots only for serious clients, no calls after 6 p.m. She started finishing tasks before he asked. She began to understand his patterns, his silences, the way his jaw clenched when something bothered him. Once, she noticed him staring out the window for too long. She softly placed a file on his table without a word. He didn't thank her, but he opened it immediately. It was like a quiet dance between them. One step closer, one step back. Still, he never smiled. Never joked. And Sharon never brought up the past. She wanted to. Many times. But the right moment never came. And maybe he didn't want to hear it. Maybe he just wanted her to walk, to pay for what she'd done in silence. One Thursday evening, when most people had left the office, Sharon stayed back to finish some reports. Her phone buzzed. A message from the hospital. Her sister needed another scan. The cost was more than she had. Her heart sank. She didn't notice Toby step out of his office. "You're still here," he said. She jumped a little. "Yes, sir. Just finishing up." He looked at her phone, saw the panic in her eyes, and said nothing. Then, he returned to his office. She sighed. She hated feeling exposed. A few minutes later, she received a message. It was from the hospital. The bill had been paid. Fully. She stared at the screen in disbelief. When she looked up, Toby was already gone. She wanted to thank him the next morning, but when she walked into the office, Toby was in a meeting. He came out later, stone-faced, and gave her a new task without looking at her. She opened her mouth, but closed it again. Maybe he didn't want her thanks. Maybe it made things harder for him. That afternoon, she left a small note on his desk, "Thank you. I'll never forget it." She didn't sign it. The next day, it was gone. No reply. No mention. But from that day, something began to change. Slowly, carefully, Toby started talking to her. Not much. Just enough. How was your weekend? Did your sister get better? The board will need coffee before the meeting. But his voice was less sharp. More human. Sharon didn't dare hope, but she felt it. A shift. A door, just slightly open. One morning, Toby asked her to accompany him to a client pitch. Take notes, he said. Watch how I handle them. She nodded eagerly. They sat side by side in the sleek black car, both quiet at first. Then he surprised her. Do you still paint? She turned to him, wide-eyed. How do you? You used to sketch in the back of your notebooks. I sat behind you. I saw everything. Sharon laughed softly. I forgot about that. He didn't smile, but his voice was softer. You were good. You made a sketch of the principal once. You gave him a big nose. She blushed, covering her mouth. Oh no. I can't believe you remember that. I remember a lot of things, he said. Some I wish I could forget. The rest of the ride was quiet. But the silence wasn't heavy anymore. It was thoughtful. Almost warm. The client pitch went smoothly. Toby was sharp, focused, and calm under pressure. Sharon watched him closely, amazed at how much he had changed. He wasn't just confident. He was powerful. People listened when he spoke. Even the senior executives leaned in when he made a point. And when he paused, the room went quiet, waiting. After the meeting, the client shook his hand with both hands, smiling widely. In the car ride back, Sharon said quietly, You were amazing. Toby didn't respond immediately. Then he said, You watched me the way people used to watch you. That made her heart twist. She looked down at her lap. Things change, she said. He nodded, eyes on the road. Yes. They do. That evening, after work, Sharon got a call from her old friend, Nancy. They hadn't spoken in months. Nancy's voice was full of questions. Girl, how did you get that job? I heard your boss is fine and rich. Are you guys? Sharon cut her off, laughing nervously. No, Nancy. He's just my boss. And, we have a history. Nancy whistled. Say no more. Just don't fall for him. Men like that. Cold as ice. Dangerous. Sharon didn't reply. Because part of her already knew. Toby wasn't dangerous with his hands. But he was dangerous with silence. With the way he remembered things. With the way he made her want to fix what couldn't be fixed. The next day, Toby called her into his office. Close the door, he said. She obeyed, nervous. He handed her a file. This is private. I want you to review it, organize it, and destroy the duplicates. No copies. Understand? She nodded, taking the thick folder. Inside were photos, letters, old reports, documents about his past. His scholarship papers, letters of rejection from jobs, one hospital bill, a note from a teacher saying he would never amount to anything. Sharon swallowed hard. He was letting her see his scars. Quietly, carefully. She spent hours sorting through them, her heart heavy. At the end of the day, she returned the clean folder. All done, she whispered. He looked at her, eyes dark and searching. Not a word to anyone, he said. She nodded. Never. As weeks passed, the tension between them began to shift again. One evening, as she was locking up, Toby walked out with her. They stood by the elevator in silence. Then he said, Do you ever wish you could go back and rewrite things? Sharon blinked. Every day. He nodded, staring at the floor. Me too. But sometimes, the pain is all that's left to remember who you were. She didn't know what to say. The elevator doors opened. They stepped in. Close. Quiet. When the doors closed, it felt like the whole world paused with them. The next morning, Sharon found a small sketch on her desk. It was a rough drawing of a little girl with wings, flying above a school building. It was her style. But it wasn't her drawing. Sharon held the journal against her chest for a long time. Her heart beat fast. He had written about her, not just the bad things. He had seen the cracks in her perfect life even back then. How she would smile in the hallway but cry in the girls' bathroom. How her clothes were always clean but a little too worn at the edges. How her laugh sometimes sounded forced. He had noticed it all. And he had never said a word. She wiped her eyes, closed the book, and stared at the ceiling. Toby had every reason to hate her. But he didn't. Not completely. Not anymore. The next morning, she arrived at work early. Earlier than usual. She wanted to see him before the others came in. When he walked in, their eyes met. I read it, she said simply. He nodded, not asking which part. You wrote things I didn't know you felt. I didn't write them for you, he said. I wrote them to survive. She looked at him, her voice barely a whisper. I'm sorry. His jaw tightened. Sorry doesn't erase the past. No, she said. But maybe it can help build something better. He didn't respond. But he didn't look away. Later that day, a new project came in, a major one. A client from abroad wanted their company to manage their launch in Lagos. Toby chose Sharon to help lead the planning. It was a big deal. Some staff whispered behind her back. He's giving her special treatment, they said. She must have something on him. But Sharon ignored them. She worked harder than ever. Late nights, endless calls, piles of notes. Toby was strict but fair. And slowly, something began to grow between them. Not quite friendship. Not quite forgiveness. But something new. Something fragile. One evening, they stayed late reviewing documents. The power flickered, then went out. The backup lights kicked in, casting a soft yellow glow over the room. Sharon laughed nervously. Looks like a horror movie. Toby smirked. You're scared of the dark? A little, she admitted. More scared of silence, though. He leaned back in his chair. I used to love silence. It was the only place nobody could hurt me. She sat on the edge of his desk. Is that still true? He looked at her, long and hard. Not anymore. The lights came back on, but neither of them moved. The following day, an envelope arrived for Sharon. No name on it. Inside was a photo from high school, one she had never seen. It was Toby, standing by a wall, holding his broken bag. In the background, she was walking past, laughing with her friends. She looked at the image for a long time. Who took it? Why was it sent now? She showed it to Toby. He stared at it, then slowly said, Someone is trying to remind us. Of what? That the past is never really buried. Sharon felt a chill run down her spine. Later that night, Sharon couldn't sleep. She kept staring at the photo. Who sent it? And why now? Her mind drifted to the whispers at work, the lingering stares, the way her locker sometimes felt slightly open even though she always locked it. Was someone watching her? Watching them? She thought of asking Toby more, but something told her he already knew. Or at least suspected. The next morning, a message appeared on her desk. Just one sentence, typed in all caps, the past isn't done with you. No name. No envelope. Just the paper. Her hands trembled as she read it. Toby walked in moments later and noticed. "What's wrong?" he asked. She showed him the note. He didn't blink. He simply nodded. "Don't worry. I'll take care of it." "Toby, who would do this?" He looked at her, eyes cold. "Someone who wants us to bleed." Then he added softly, "Someone who remembers everything." That day, Sharon couldn't focus. Every time she turned a corner, she expected someone to be watching. Every phone ring startled her. Even when Toby called her into his office, she jumped. He noticed, of course. "You're afraid," he said. "I've seen that look before. I wore it for years." She sat down slowly. "You think it's someone from school?" "Yes," he said. "Someone who saw. Someone who stayed quiet then, and is angry now." "Why would they target me?" "Because you were the queen," he whispered. "And queens always fall the hardest." The next day, Sharon received a message on her phone. An old video clip from high school. It showed her and her friends cornering a boy in the hallway. Laughing. Mocking his shoes. Shoving his books. The boy was Toby. She watched herself in the video, sick to her stomach. She had forgotten this moment completely. But someone hadn't. Beneath the video was a message, "Do you still believe people can change?" She ran into Toby's office, her voice shaking. "Did you see this?" He didn't respond. "Toby, why is this happening?" He looked up at her, tired. "Because we made enemies we never saw coming." "What do we do?" He paused. "We dig." That night, they stayed late, going through old files, employee records, even social media. Toby was methodical. Focused. He had built power on control, and now that control was being tested. Then Sharon found it. An old employee named Bill. Quiet. Polite. Always in the background. He had graduated from their high school too. He had been there. Always watching. Toby remembered him now. He used to sit in the library. "I thought he was asleep half the time. But he was listening. Writing things down. Sketching faces." He never spoke. Sharon's voice dropped. "He's still here, Toby. He works in the records department." Toby stood. Not for long. Toby moved quickly. He didn't go through HR. He didn't send security. He went straight to the records department himself. Sharon followed close behind. The room was dim, rows of cabinets and old files stacked like forgotten graves. Bear wasn't at his desk. "Check the logs," Toby ordered. Sharon opened the desk drawer. Inside were drawings, pages and pages of faces. Students. Teachers. Even her. Some were scratched out violently, others circled. One was Toby. His eyes had been blacked out with thick ink. They found Bill 2 floors down, in the basement storage. He was sitting on a stool, flipping through a yearbook. When he saw them, he didn't look surprised. "I knew you'd come," he said softly. "You always were smart, Toby. Even when they treated you like trash." Toby didn't flinch. "Why are you doing this?" Bill smiled faintly. "Because the world forgot what they did. But I didn't. I watched you every day. I watched them break you. I watched her laugh while they did it." Sharon stepped back. "Bill," he cut her off. "Save it. Your tears mean nothing to Ghost." Security arrived and escorted Bill away. He didn't fight. He didn't scream. He just kept whispering, "You remember. Even if I'm gone, you remember." That night, the office was quiet. Empty. Sharon sat across from Toby, her voice low. "Why didn't you get angry?" He leaned forward. Because I understand him. I was him. I just chose a different weapon. She reached for his hand. You don't have to fight alone anymore. For the first time, his fingers curled around hers. Days passed. The office returned to normal. Or at least, it tried to. But something had shifted between them. They spoke more freely. Worked more closely. One evening, Toby showed her a project he'd been working on an outreach program for underprivileged students. Scholarships. Mentorships. Job training. I'm building something better, he said. Because nobody built anything for me. Sharon smiled. You're not cold. You're just armored. He looked at her. I had to be. Until now. But healing is never simple. One afternoon, Sharon was called into a meeting by the board. Alone. She entered the conference room and froze. Nancy was there, her old friend. Dressed sharp. Holding a file. Sharon Obafemi, one of the board members said. We've received serious claims that you were involved in workplace harassment in your past. That your relationship with the CEO may be compromised. Sharon's stomach turned. Nancy smiled, cold and sharp. Old ghosts don't just haunt. Sometimes they testify. After the meeting, she went straight to Toby's office. It was Nancy, she said, breathless. She wants my job. Maybe more. Toby closed his laptop slowly. I warned you. Some people don't want apologies. They want revenge. What do we do? He stood and looked at her, eyes dark. We don't run. We remember everything. And then, we choose what to become. The next few days were a storm. Sharon's name was whispered in hallways again. Just like in high school. But this time, the stakes were higher. She felt the weight in every room she walked into, every paused conversation. Even the receptionist no longer smiled at her. She typed reports, arranged meetings, and kept her head down, but her heart beat like war drums. Toby remained calm, but Sharon could see the tension beneath. In meetings, he was sharper, colder. He spoke less. Trusted fewer people. And every night, he left the office later than the night before. Then, one morning, Sharon found another note in her drawer. A photo this time. A picture of Toby's apartment door. She rushed into his office. Someone followed you home, she whispered. You need to be careful. He studied the photo and calmly slipped it into his drawer. They're not after me, he said. They're after you. Later that day, Toby called for a company-wide town hall. Staff filled the main conference room, eyes wide with curiosity. Toby stood at the front, next to Sharon, and told the truth. About his past. About the bullying. About how pain had built the walls around his life. He never named names. But he didn't have to. The silence afterward was deep. Some employees looked down in shame. Some cried quietly. And some, like Nancy, looked away in fury. When it was over, Toby walked out, leaving Sharon behind. She stood frozen, unsure if she should follow. But then a slow clap echoed through the room. Nancy stood, smiling like a predator. That was touching, she said. But telling your sob story doesn't change what she did. Or how she got here. Sharon turned. Her voice didn't shake this time. I got here because I worked. Because I grew. And because the man you call cold decided to believe in change more than revenge. Nancy's eyes narrowed. We'll see how long that lasts. The next morning, Nancy was gone. Fired. The board had reviewed her manipulation, her attempt to sabotage Sharon, and her history of unethical behavior. Her desk was cleared in silence. When Sharon entered Toby's office, he was staring out the window. You didn't have to do that, she said. I didn't, he replied. The truth did. She stepped closer. So, what happens now? He looked at her, and his voice dropped to a whisper. Now we find out what it means to forgive ourselves. Sharon sat beside him. For the first time, there was no tension in the air. No ghost. No knives hidden in words. Just breath. Just peace. But just as the quiet settled, Toby's phone buzzed. A message. From a number neither of them recognized. One line, "You told your story. Now it's my turn." Sharon looked at him, eyes wide. Toby read it twice. Then again. His voice was steady. "It's not over." Sharon and Toby stood side by side, not as strangers from a painful past, but as two people learning how to rebuild themselves, with honesty, scars, and grace. They had faced the ghost of memory and come out changed, not perfect, but stronger. Though the message hinted that the past still held secrets, they were no longer afraid. Because this time, they would face it together. And sometimes, that was enough. Not to erase what had been done, but to begin again. Thank you for watching. I hope this story touched you in some way. If it did, please subscribe, like, and share, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, take care.